Hello and welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you have seen any of my videos before. This is only the second video I've done on this channel, so welcome. Today I thought I would go through all of the books that I read in 2025. Now, if you watched my first video, you would know that I only really started reading in sort of the second half of 2025. I had read books before that, but I only kind of got really into reading the second half of 2025, so around July, and I think I read 20 books. I have this book club that I'm part of as part of my job, and we basically read business books and sort of self-help type books. So I did read a few for that, but I'm not going to talk about those today. I'm just going to talk about the ones that I read the second half of the year that are kind of all of the fiction books that I read. So the first book that I read in July was A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. I basically just loved the cover of this, and it was summer at the time, so I really wanted a lovely summery read. Now, this book is about a girl called Lou who lives in, I think it's Cornwall. It's somewhere on the English coast. She lives with her family. It's the 1920s. It's very kind of Great Gatsby themed. So she spots this house, this kind of rundown, dilapidated, beautiful old mansion across the water on this island. And she ends up swimming across and getting lost in this old mansion, which has sort of been abandoned. And she ends up, reading the books in the library and things. And then one day the owners return, and it's basically about how her life sort of intertwines with the original owners of the house. It's very kind of coming of age, very summery, very Great Gatsby inspired, and I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. Now, Laura Wood has written another book called Under a Dancing Star, which I believe is a similar kind of vibe. And there's also A Snowfall of Silver, which is kind of a wintry book. So I'm definitely keen to check out more of her books. The next book I read was The Convenience Store by the Sea. Now, this is actually a Japanese book, but it was translated into English, and it's very quirky, I have to say. So it's basically about this convenience store, and the guy, I think he runs it, like he's the manager of the convenience store, and he's basically this celebrity, and everyone in the town is like literally in love with him. So he gets like accosted by all these old ladies who are just obsessed with him. They have like a fan club for him with a giant cutout of him. I did really enjoy the food descriptions in this. If you're a foodie, definitely check this out because there are some really delicious sounding foods in this book, all from the convenience store. So it's very interesting. It's not really restaurant food. It's kind of, it's convenience store food, but the way it's described just makes it sound amazing. I read this in the summer as well, and it was very summery. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was quirky, but I actually really enjoyed it. The next book I read was Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is another book translated from Japanese, and it's basically about this coffee shop where if you sit in a certain seat in the coffee shop, you can transport back in time, but there are certain rules that go with that. So I think there's a time limit on it, and you can only sit in that seat, so you can't move from the seat. You are only able to go back in time to the cafe itself. So yeah, the rules are pretty quirky, but I really enjoyed this. This was actually really beautiful and touching. There's some really beautiful stories in this. There's one in particular about a couple who the husband has dementia, and his wife travels back in time to kind of speak to him before he gets dementia, and it's just really beautiful. There's another story of a girl who speaks to her sister before she gets in an accident. I believe there's a few more in this series as well. But yeah, I loved this. I gave it 4 stars. I might even bump it up to 4.5. It's also a very short read. It wasn't long. It didn't take me that long to read. And it's very summery as well. The next book I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, if you haven't heard of this, this is a gigantic series, and I'd be very surprised if you haven't heard of it. This is the first book in the series. I did actually really like this. I haven't read any more from the series, but I did enjoy it. I definitely did prefer the last third of the book. It did take a while to get there, and I'm told that the second book is the best in the whole series. I did start the second book, but I'm only like 3 pages in. So yeah, I will be finishing it. I do have the rest of the books. It was definitely different to anything I've read before, and I did cry at one point. It was good. Interested to see what happens in the rest of the series. But yeah, solid 4 stars. The The next book I read was Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. Now, this is a Greek mythology kind of retelling, but it's from the perspective of the women. So this follows sisters Ariadne and Phaedra, and it's basically the story, if you know Greek mythology, it's the story of the Minotaur and Theseus, and Dionysus is also in here, so that's the god of pleasure and wine. And I really, really enjoyed this. I found it really engrossing. I really felt for all of the characters. Well, I felt for the women. The men in this are, well, let's just say it's not very sympathetic towards the men in this, but I really loved the women. And it was just a really refreshing take on it. I don't think I have ever felt so invested in a Greek mythology story before. And again, another very summary read. I gave this 5 stars. I really loved it. The next book I read was Electra, also by Jennifer Saint. This is the second book in the sort of series on Greek mythology retellings. This one focuses on Electra, Clytemnestra, and Cassandra, and it's basically the story of Troy. I did really like this. I wouldn't say I liked it as much as Ariadne. This one also has some pretty dark things in it. Ariadne does as well, but this one, there's one scene in particular which is pretty horrifying. So yeah, just be aware there's some stuff in this that was a little bit shocking to read about. There is also another book in this series. I think there's 2 more. There's Hera and Atlanta. I've heard those ones aren't as good, but I definitely want to give them a go in the summertime. These are very kind of summery Greek island vibes. So yeah, I definitely want to give those a go. I didn't like this as much, but I still really, really enjoyed it. So I gave this 4 stars. The next book I read was The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I loved this so much. I think this is my favorite book of the year. If you've seen my last video, I read The Enchanted Greenhouse in December, which is kind of the follow-on book from this. So The Spell Shop is about a girl called Keela who ends up kind of stranded on this island, and it's the island that she used to live on with her parents before she traveled to the city of Elysium, which ends up having this massive civil war, and she has to kind of flee to the island, and she arrives and thinks it's uninhabited, but it turns out it's not. And she basically is tasked with saving the island. So it's a very similar story to The Enchanted Greenhouse. It's basically the same story, but a different character. And it's very, very summery, spring, summer. So I definitely will be rereading this year because it's just, the vibes are so good. I was trying to explain this to someone at work, and all I kept saying was it was about jam, and now he asks me about the jam book all the time. So this is the jam book. Basically, she opens up a jam shop, which is kind of a front for her spell shop, because in this world, it's kind of illegal to do magic unless you're a trained sorcerer. I absolutely love this. 5 stars, 6 stars. It's one of my favorite books. So then as it kind of turned into autumn time, I picked up The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I really liked this. I think I liked it more the more I thought about it. So when I first read it, I do remember feeling a little bit confused by some of the language. I love the way this is written. I love Rachel Gillig's writing. I just felt like the characters spoke in a really strange way. So that the world is supposed to be kind of old-timey. It's about these diviners in a cathedral in this old sort of gothic, it's very, very gothic autumn vibes. And just the way they speak, they kind of swear a lot. It just took me out of the moment, because I'm sure they did swear back in the old days, but like it felt very modern to have them swearing and kind of speaking in a very modern way and talking about sleeping around. And like, I just found it very odd. It felt like putting aspects of modern culture back into something that felt like it was supposed to be set in the Middle Ages, which I don't know if it is supposed to be set in the Middle Ages. I think it's just another alternate universe, but it did kind of take me out of the moment. So that's the only thing I felt a bit let down by, but I really, really loved this. I just loved the whimsical feel of this book. It felt really like going on kind of a cozy quest. It's not super cozy. I wouldn't say it was cozy, but it's not super high stakes either. So it's kind of in between. And if you've heard anything about this book, you probably have heard of the adorable gargoyle Bartholomew, who is very, very cute. He's very funny. It just provides moments of lightness when it's needed, because this can be a little bit dark. It's basically about these diviners, these young girls who basically tell people's fortunes, but the way they do this is by drowning. So they basically die and come back to life over and over and over again, which is extremely traumatic and awful. So it is a little bit dark. There is also a second book coming out, I believe, the end of this year, called The Knave and the Moon, which I'm so excited for, because this ends on a massive cliffhanger. There's a big twist and then it just ends, and yeah, I'm definitely so excited for the second book. But I gave this 4 stars. I think I'm gonna bump it up to 4.5, maybe 5. But again, I think just the modern language, the swearing, the sleeping around stuff, like I just felt that took me out of it a little bit. So I don't know if I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I think let's say 4.5. And because I was reading Rachel Gillig at the time, I then moved on to One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. So this is the duology that she wrote before The Night and the Moth. This is such an atmospheric series. It has beautiful imagery. It's set in this town, which is kind of under this curse. And it follows this girl called Elspeth, who has to basically end the curse. The first book is about her. The second book, she's in it, but she's not really the main character. It is a little bit jarring, but it kind of switches from her perspective to the other people in the story. And she is still there. And I won't give away how she's there, but she is there. But I did find that slightly jarring. I really, really enjoyed both of these books. I would say it's quite hard to kind of rate them just one, because it kind of is a continuous story. So I'm just going to rate them as 1. I would give this probably 4.5 stars. Again, I really enjoyed it. But again, I just felt with the switch from Elspeth's perspective to the other perspectives in this was a little bit jarring. But it's a great story. It's the second book especially. There's so much action towards the end and it's really engrossing. Such an interesting magic system as well. So the magic in this world is basically based on playing cards. They're not playing cards. They're cards that have different powers associated with them. So for example, one of them makes you really beautiful. One of them makes you able to control other people. One of them makes you invisible. But then if you use them for too long or too often, there are repercussions. But yes, really, really enjoyed this series. I then read Anatomy by Dana Schwartz, and I also read Immortality, which is the second book in that series. I'm going to speak about Anatomy first because I loved Anatomy so much. I live in Edinburgh and this book is based in Edinburgh. It is so gothic and gory, which makes it perfect for autumn. It's not gory. I mean, it is a little bit. So this is about a girl who wants to be a surgeon, but during this time period, she is not allowed to be in the lectures because they're considered too gory for women. So she basically has to find a grave digger and get him to bring her corpses to study anatomy. And she kind of ends up being this amazing surgeon. And it does take a bit of a weird twist at the end, which brings me to Immortality. So that's the second book in the series. I did not like this. I loved Anatomy. I gave this 5 stars. Immortality is so weird. It just takes this really strange turn. It's not set in Edinburgh anymore. And I just found it I just didn't like it very much. So I would definitely recommend reading Anatomy, not Immortality, because it takes the weirdness from the end of Anatomy and just blows it up completely. And it just becomes this really strange, I don't know. I just found it really odd and it didn't feel like it fit the vibe of the first book. It's set in London. So it doesn't have the same kind of gothic vibes as the first book. So yes, in my opinion, read Anatomy, skip Immortality. Anatomy I gave 5 stars, Immortality I gave 2.5. The final book I read in autumn was If We Were Villains. So this is a very, again, gothic autumnal read. It's about these students in a university who are studying Shakespeare, and one of the students murders another student, but you don't know who, you don't know how. And it starts with basically he's in prison and he's already served time in prison, one of the students. But you don't know if he did it. You don't even know who he's killed. So it kind of goes back in time and explains kind of what happened. I did like this. I felt like it dragged. There were some really, really good scenes in this. There's scenes where they're doing the plays where it becomes it almost like entwines with their real life and fiction starts to merge with reality. And it's really, really interesting. I also loved the ending of this. I didn't understand the ending. But I'm not sure if you're supposed to. It's one of those endings where it's just kind of left open to interpretation. So yeah, the ending was good. I just felt like it dragged and I wasn't a massive fan of any of the characters really. So I liked this. It was good. I don't think I would read it again. I do want to read A Secret History because I did like the concept of this. I just felt like it could have been better. I've heard people absolutely raving about this and I can understand why you would enjoy it. It's really well written and I did enjoy the Shakespeare, but I don't know. I just didn't really get sucked in that much. And it took me a little while to finish this as well. So I think I gave it a 4 stars, but I might bump it down to a 3.5. But yes, definitely excited to check out A Secret History, which if you don't know, it's basically the same story, I think. It was written before this. It's a very, very similar story. And I've heard that's kind of the OG sort of dark academia book. So I will read that this autumn. But yeah, I liked this. It wasn't amazing. It just wasn't 100% for me. Okay, so the rest of the books I read in December, I've already done a video on the books that I read in December, so I'm just going to very quickly go through these. So Blue Sisters, I gave 5 stars. I really enjoyed the writing in this. Again, not a book I would have necessarily picked up. I read this as part of my book club. I don't tend to reach for literary fiction very often, so this was a really interesting one for me. It's not something that I would normally have read. I then read Legends and Lattes, which I liked. I thought it was cozy and adorable, but not quite cozy and adorable enough. I gave this 4 stars. There was just some things that were a little bit frustrating. I then read The Enchanted Greenhouse, which is the second book in the Spell Shop kind of series. I absolutely love this. I gave this 5 stars. Absolutely magical, magical read. And then finally, I read Spinning Silver, which I also gave 5 stars. Another very magical, very wintry read, and the perfect end to my reading year. So that is it. That is the 17 books I read in 2025. I'm so excited for 2026. I've already read 1 book. I'm halfway through another one. I think as I read more books, I'm probably going to start giving more sort of 3-star ratings. You'll probably notice I gave a lot of 4-star ratings. And again, I think a lot of that is down to the fact that I'm just so excited to be getting into reading again. And also I'm picking books that I have a very strong feeling I will really enjoy. I'm picking them based on people that I have similar taste to. So we'll see in 2026 if I branch out a little bit more into things that I wouldn't normally pick up. But yes, I'm very excited. Let me know if there's anything based on those books that I enjoyed that you think I would like. I think, like I said in my last video, I'm realizing that I really like fantastical, whimsical, magical books. And I've got quite a few saved on my wish list. I did get a voucher for Christmas for local independent bookstores, so I'm very excited to use that. But I am also moving fairly soon, so I'm trying not to buy too many books. I already have quite a few that I haven't read yet. But yeah, that was my books of 2025. I think the next video I'll do will probably be a newbie tag or maybe even a reading vlog. I'm not quite sure yet. But yeah, I'm really excited for 2026 and I will see you in my next video.